Hello everyone, my name is Asher Hawes, and today I'm going to tell you about a show called The Chosen. First, an overview of the show. What is The Chosen? Well, The Chosen is a TV series that tells the story of the Gospels, which are 4 books of the Bible written by Jesus' followers to tell the story of Jesus' life, ministry, death, and resurrection. Simply put, this show is an adaptation of Jesus' life story. In my mind, this work is set apart from other popular Christian media because of the artistic liberties it takes to add depth to the story. It builds out characters, and it creates a relatable series. The show focuses not only on Jesus, but also his followers, even having multiple episodes with Jesus either completely absent or only showing up in the end of the episode. Next, I want to tell you a bit about the characters of the show. This is Jesus, the main character of the show. He is the Son of God, the Savior of all mankind, and he atoned for our sins, which is a big, churchy word to say that he gave himself up so that we can live free from evil. The show follows his ministry, starting with him calling his disciples to follow him, then moving on to his teaching, miracles, and actions. Next, we have Jesus' disciples. While Jesus is the main character, it could easily be argued the show is really about his followers, given the name of the show is literally The Chosen, referring to the chosen followers of Jesus. In the first few seasons, we are shown each of these characters' lives and the events leading up to them being saved by Jesus. For instance, The Chosen shows the events in Simon, Peter, and Matthew's lives immediately before Jesus comes. We see Simon's debt to Rome growing and growing, as Matthew, a tax collector, shows him no mercy on his debt. In Simon's final moment of freedom, Jesus appears to him and performs a miracle, making Simon, who is a fisherman, catch a bigger catch than anyone had ever seen, settling his debts and then some. Matthew, witnessing this, is shocked and amazed. Jesus then calls both of them to follow him, and they do. This is what makes The Chosen so unique. It gives us a possible context to the events of the Bible, which can sometimes be considered difficult to understand given the cultural differences between the modern day and 30 AD Jerusalem. In the story of Simon, the Bible does recount the fishing events, however, it does not recount Simon's debt. While some have criticized the show for showing events that are not biblically mentioned, I believe that for the purposes of understanding, the added depth of the show can aid in understanding of the actual Gospels. Next, I want to talk about the women in The Chosen. There are 5 main female characters in The Chosen: Mary Magdalene, Rama, Eden, Tamar, and Joanna. Mary and Joanna are the only ones mentioned specifically in the Bible, but the Bible also mentions that there were many other people who followed Jesus, both men and women, that aren't mentioned by name. It is these people that Rama, Eden, and Tamar are meant to represent. Rama represents the Jewish women and wives who traveled with Jesus. Eden represents the Jewish wives who had to stay home and live alone while their husbands followed Jesus. And Tamar represents the Gentile or non-Jewish women who followed Jesus. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the show itself. The storyline of The Chosen can be separated into 2 main plot lines. First, the disciples' lives, failures, and callings. This plot line takes up most of the first 2 seasons, showing each disciple's path to Jesus in depth. These episodes build out depth to the disciples and the people in their lives. Second, Jesus' ministry. In the early episodes, most of what we see of Jesus is his early signs and his calling of the disciples, with a few teachings in between. But as the show progresses, it becomes more about Jesus and less about the disciples' stories. Now just a little bit of the minutiae of the show. There are currently 4 seasons, with a total of 32 episodes. They plan on making 7 seasons total, with the 5th season releasing in April of 2025. The Chosen has racked up 770 million episode views as of January 2024, which was almost a year ago now, and is available on a number of streaming services. It is rated 97% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 9.2 on IMDb. The Chosen is also available in its own app, which is completely free to download, and there is no subscription required or in-app purchases, and the only ads are for the show itself. This is a sample of some of the top critic reviews on The Chosen. Luke Thompson of the AV Club says that The Chosen's Jesus is more of a best friend than a stern judge, and says that the emphasis of the show is on Christ's loving, human, spiritual side. Chris DeVille of The Atlantic says that The Chosen represents a future of Christian television with crisp production and nuanced storytelling. Next, we have a video.
I'm here to preach the good news of the kingdom of heaven.
It's him.
I'm Jesus of Nazareth.
His care is for women, for the vulnerable.
Blasphemy is not harmless.
This is different. Get used to different.
I say to you,
Love your enemies. And
Pray for those who persecute you.
Do you want to be healed?
Force them out. We are still Rome.
The one comfort we have is to know that we're doing it together. I want my people to participate in the healing of the world.
If you do not renounce your words, we will have no choice but to follow the law of Moses.
I am the law of Moses. In this world, bones will still break, hearts will still break. But in the end, the light will overcome darkness.
Next, I want to tell you why The Chosen is important. One of the things The Chosen does well is historical accuracy, and more importantly, showing historical situations in a way that is relatable to a modern-day audience. While there are some historical inaccuracies, the show overall does a solid job keeping to history, showing the Roman-Jewish relations in a more realistic way. Unlike most Christian media that shows the Romans as faceless enemies of the Jewish people, The Chosen actually goes in depth on some Roman leaders and their interactions with the disciples. Gaius and Quintus are two Roman leaders that we get to know well and see their reaction to Jesus as non-Jews. Another important aspect of The Chosen is its religious significance. It is very important to understand that The Chosen is not a perfect replication of the Bible, nor is it trying to be. The Chosen's goal is not to be the Gospels on screen. The Chosen's goal is to show us the events of Jesus' life, but through a view focusing on the people around him and the way they are affected by him. This show has been criticized for deviating from the Gospels at some points, which can be a problem. However, if you keep in mind while watching the show that this is an imperfect recreation, then The Chosen actually can help your understanding of the Gospels and the characters of the Bible. This show, in my opinion, can be a very powerful tool to help understand not only the Christian faith, but who Jesus is and what he preached. For Christians, this show, properly viewed, can deepen our understanding of the Gospels. For non-Christians, this show can help you understand what Christians believe, because it does an incredible job of portraying the core tenets of the Gospel, and, if nothing else, it is a well-made and entertaining show. Next, I want to talk about how The Chosen was made. The story of how The Chosen came to be is a very good one, and I suggest you go watch the video on the Chosen's YouTube channel of the story behind The Chosen, but I'll summarize it. Dallas Jenkins, the creator and director of The Chosen, had just had the worst failure of his career, releasing a movie that flopped spectacularly at the box office. This was devastating, but that same night he got a Facebook message from a random person referencing a story from the Gospels called The Feeding of the 5,000. What this person said to Dallas encouraged him, and later that year he made a short film called The Shepherd for his church's Christmas service. The Shepherd is a short film depicting Jesus' birth from the perspective of the shepherds who were present. Someone from a startup called VidAngel saw it and decided the Shepherd had the qualities that they were looking for. They approached Dallas about using it as a pilot to turn into a show. He agreed, and they began raising money, producing The Chosen, and now it is the largest crowdfunded series ever. In 2020, The Chosen made a partnership with Camp Hoblitzell and built a 30,000 square foot soundstage and 2-acre set for the filming of Season 3. The set is a replication of first century Capernaum, a city in Israel. The camp is located in Texas and is one of 2 main filming locations for The Chosen. The other is in Utah. This massive village is made with extreme care and detail, even down to the Latin graffiti on the walls of Roman buildings. The marketing for The Chosen has been fairly simple and all. Daryl Eves, a show's executive producer, says that they try to keep their marketing honest and humble, using simple ads and fairly normal trailers to garner interest in the show. Their merchandise is often very simple, using catchphrases like "come and see," "get used to different," and "binge Jesus" to spark interest. While the Chosen itself is not technically a nonprofit organization, all of its funding is managed by the Come and See Foundation, which is a nonprofit. This is perhaps the weirdest part of The Chosen's marketing history. In April 2022, The Chosen launched an anti-ad marketing campaign. This campaign was short-lived and met mostly with confusion, but I think it's hilarious. The idea of the campaign was The Chosen put up billboards and ads that were made to look like they were defaced with the link chosensucks.com. When you went to this site, you were redirected to a satirical skit of Satan teaching a class called Intro to Damnation, where he tells the class not to watch The Chosen. While this ad strategy, in my opinion, is funny and intriguing, much of the community just didn't get it, and The Chosen apologized for not telling the audience what they were doing. Finally, I want to quickly recap what I've talked about today. The Chosen is a TV show that tells Jesus' life story. Its main characters are Jesus, his disciples, and the women who followed him. The show's story has two main parts, the disciples' lives and Jesus' ministry, and has been received well by both normal and critical viewers. It can help us gain an understanding of the historical context around the Gospels, meaning the meaning behind Jesus' ministry and a deeper understanding of the Christian faith as a whole. Finally, we looked at the history of how The Chosen was created, the uniqueness of its permanent set at Camp Hoblitzl, and The Chosen's marketing strategies, both successful and unsuccessful. Thank you all for listening. I will leave you with the message that you should watch this show. It is worth your time, I promise. Also, if anyone here ever wants to know more about anything related to Christianity, I am more than happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you,